Hello everyone, welcome to my new video, and this is the final video in a episode which I created by accident about using arpeggiators to trigger breakbeats and stuff like that. If you have seen my videos before, you'll know that that's basically all I do videos about. So I'm just going to open a beer and we'll get started. If you haven't seen the other two videos, go and check them out. They've been getting some positive feedback, which is nice. I've also been getting some other comments about people who are having problems following the cursor on the screen, the mouse cursor. I understand where you're coming from. There's not a hell of a lot I can do about it. I try to go into the Mac preferences to change the color of the cursor and make it bigger, but it doesn't actually show up in the screen capture, which is a bit shit. I could sort of do some focusing, but that would be a little bit too much post-production. But I'll try harder in the future. I mean, basically, I zoom the screen to as big as it can go. I'm on a 27-inch iMac, and if I do everything at the normal size, then it's kind of puny. It kind of looks like this. You can't see that, so I actually wanged that up to 200%. So I'll do my best. Anyway, enough of that waffle. Let's drink some beer first. It's Thursday. Okay, so basically what I've done in previous videos is use arpeggiators to trigger sliced breaks. I love it. It's great. So what I'm going to do this time is a couple of things that sprung to mind from comments I had from previous videos, was I thought it would be fun to actually do it all in one drum rack cell. I've got my Akai MPD 218 plugged in, which I'm going to use to trigger stuff. And I've got a little mix I made here, little drum breaks, the classic breaks. Let's have a listen to all the good breaks. Nice. So I'm just going to take this little bit here and I'm going to drop that into this drum rack cell. Now I can trigger that. Lovely. So I'm going to slice it. I'm going to slice it by beats, and I'm going to slice it by 1/8. Cool. Then I'm going to bring in our friend the arpeggiator, and I'm going to set the rate here on the arpeggiator to 1/8. I'll leave the gate where it is for now, I think, and I'll set the distance to 1. And the steps to 2. And I also need to make sure I've got the right MIDI note assignment. So when you drop a instance of Simpler into a drum rack cell and then slice it, it changes the note that it plays and receives. So it's receiving C1, that's this note here, but it's going to play C3, which isn't what we want. We want to just wang that back down to C1, which I think I can just type in. No. Can't I just type in C1? No. This is a very, very inaccessible menu to use, considering how many items there are in there. A drop-down menu like this would be nice. Okay, but that should be sorted now. Cool. So the arpeggiator is, if you can see, I'm over here now in the if you can see that. So that is just playing the first 3 notes over and over and over. Now, if I hold the note, it's just going to keep going. But if I introduce this re-trigger thing down here in the arpeggiator, here's the arpeggiator, here is the re-trigger thing, I'm clicking it now. If you set this to beat, we can use that to re-trigger the arpeggiator sort of cycle, if you will, at a time of our choosing. There we go. Now that is jungle. That's breakbeat hardcore if ever there was. Cool. So this is all in a single drum rack cell as well. Maybe if I close that, let's close all this gubbins, we can see everything a little bit better. That is perfect, we can see everything. So I'm triggering one cell on my drum rack and I'm getting this breakbeat loop. And this should all clock to the click very nicely. Oh, hang on. Okay, now if I press the pad, so you can hear that it's clocked. So it doesn't matter when we press it. It might do something a little bit weird to start with, but it'll gather itself and then it'll lock to the transport. So that's obviously very musical. We can use that for stuff and it won't sort of get a little bit out of control, which it can very easily do when you're trying to do the stuff. I know, I have experience in these things, doing gigs, spending months getting sets ready, getting them, nailing them at home and then taking them to gigs and it all just goes wrong and people just go, where's the one, mate? What your shit, what are you doing? So what we're going to do now is bring in the random, and we'll use the random to randomly move to different slices. So because we've got this re-trigger on, there's quite a substantial chance that it will trigger the first slice every bar or 2 bars or wherever it's set to 1 bar. But we can use the random for it to select other slices. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slices. So using the choices thing, this choices dial here, we don't want to set that too high because then it's going to trigger stuff that doesn't exist. So we'll set that to 7. That way it will randomly choose any one of these 8 slices we've got. So I will start and then dial. I'll turn the metronome off. I will start and then dial in the charts and you can hear the random breakbeat loveliness. There we go, isn't that fun? And of course we can change the sort of the pattern of the arpeggiator just by adjusting the steps. So if we have like, set it to 1, we'll get 2 because 0 is included as 1 step. So 0 to 1 is 2, so we'll have like 2. So we get a different feel, different groove. If we go to 3, then we'll get kind of a bar or half a bar or something. I'll just maybe close off, close off the, I can't close that. I can't close it! Why can't I close the pads off? Does it not work like that? Okay, ignore that. So that's kind of fun. You can watch it do its thing as well. Let's go back to two steps. But we don't want to hear that forever. We want it to do some fun stuff. So let's get balls deep. Let's group that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some macro editing after I've had a guzzle of some beer, so that we can put a map a macro on our controller to control how crazy it gets, because we don't want it to go crazy all the time. And because we're doing this in a drum rack, it's totally geared towards performance. So you could think of this cell here as being like one musical element in your piece. You know, you can have like drums there, you can have like some bass here, pads, whatever. Maybe that's a good thing for another video. But anyway, waffle. Let's duplicate that chain in this rack. And we'll set this one to play backwards. Let's see how that sounds. Okay, cool. Let's duplicate the first one again, and we'll get this one to, we'll sort of do a time stretchy thing, classic time stretch with this one. Let's put the slices down to 1/2. Cool. Oh, lovely. Now we've got a problem here, right? Because the slices continue to play when the note's released, and I don't want that. What I want them to do is kind of only trigger for the amount of time that there is a note happening. And the way that we want to do that is that we want to use the gate playback on the simpler. Now, there's another problem there, and that's because the length of the notes is predetermined by the gate on the arpeggiator. We're only using one arpeggiator, so we're okay, but we're going to have to take that into consideration. So what we're going to do is we're going to set one instance of sampler to gate, copy value to sibling, so now that they're all set to gate, and then we're going to bring in a note length and set that to the length that's the same as our arpeggiator. And that means that every note length will be 1/8, and every slice in the sample will only sound for that amount of time that the note length is. Get it? So now if I release the note, it stops. Whereas if I have it to trigger, whoa, where's it gone? I turn the note length off. You hear that? That's because the arpeggiator is gating the note. Turn that on. Cool, all right. So let's do a little bit more duplicating here. Let's take this one and we'll put a, what should we put on this one? Maybe like a wibbly wobbly. I wonder if we could put like another arpeggiator in. I wonder if this will work. Let's find out. Weird. I duplicated that one and that. Hang on. Oh, hang on. Right. Sorry. Made a tiny mistake there. Let's just set them all back to. Okay. So if we drop. I've lost it. I've lost the plot. What was I doing? Okay. So panic. I was going to do like a wibbly wobbly pitch thing. Okay, but we need to gate the length of the note to what we want. I wonder if it'll work if I put that there. No. Okay. Okay, that'll do for now. It's just an example. So, now what I want to do is I want to go into the velocity range here and select them all and distribute ranges equally. Okay, so what I want to do now is bring in the velocity and somehow come to an arrangement where I can dial in velocity switching for each of these chains, whilst at the same time dialing in how much random I want. So if I have random down, this is going to get a little bit difficult to see. I'll make everything a little bit more tiny so we can see. Sorry about that. You can see. All right. Okay. What I want to do, I just said that, didn't I? So, right. Okay. We've got no velocity. Incidentally, this will only work if you've got... Oh! That's Facebook. This will only work if you've got volume to velocity turned all the way down on all your instances. So if I have a velocity here of 1, it still sounds at the same volume. Okay. Let's macro. So let's bring in our macros. Let's macro the random chance to macro 1 and the output high on the velocity to macro 1 and the random to macro 1. Now by default we're going to get some strange values there that might not be what we want, but let's see what happens. Nothing. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to set the minimum range on the velocity output high to 1. So we should get a note now. There we go. Now if I turn this up, I wonder what will happen. This macro down here in the drum rack, can you see it? I'm wiggling the mouse. Okay, that isn't quite what I want. So how am I going to think about this? What's happening there is that, let's just minimize these ones we don't need here. This might help a little bit. So as I'm turning that macro up, I'm getting random velocity, but also a random velocity around the range of 71. That's not what I want. So maybe mapping that was a bad idea. Let's unmap that. Now we want it when it's down to 0 to be at our normal playback, which is there. So let's say that our minimum output, high output velocity is 27. Oh, hang on, I didn't map it. Let's map it. So let's say that our minimum output, high velocity, is 27. And so when it's at 0, it'll be at 27. So if I dial in, it's not really sounding how I expected, actually. I should have planned this a little bit better. Maybe I should do some switching. Maybe I should switch. Oh, this is getting complicated. What have I done? I've bitten off more than I can chew. So, I can't just quit now. That would be terribly embarrassing. Okay, I know what to do. What I will do is I will make the velocity ranges a little bit smaller on the random ones. Let's try something like 80. And then let's move the normal playback one up to 80. So that as we're dialing in the random, we're still getting random slices triggered, but we're not getting random playbacks triggered. Let's see how that works out. Let's turn map off. Okay, yeah, there we go. So as I dial in the... okay, we can go back to... Let's go back to big 200%. So, let's minimize these. We can have a look what's going on. So, as the macro is down to 0. There we go. Now, as I begin to bring that macro in, we'll start to get random slices, but at normal playback. Let's listen to that. Oh, where's it gone? There we go. Now, as I go even further with the macro, we'll start to introduce the different playbacks, the variety, the glitchy stuff. And when we're at full, then it'll just do everything. So we can bring it back. Also, you can, of course, turn hold on here and just press the note and leave it. I don't have to keep pressing and holding it and giving myself repetitive strain. Stop. Okay. So, yeah, that was it. Because this is a loop of, other breaks, I could... Oh, wow, look at that. Do you see that? I grabbed that like loop start and it created more slices. That's fucking awesome. Look at that. Is it going to do it? That is well good. So no matter where the loops, that is so good. That's brilliant. Of course, it's only done it on that first one. I'd like to take this opportunity to reiterate a feature request I asked for ages ago, which is that when we're working in slices like this, in Simpler, it would be really good if the loop start and endpoints would snap to those divisions, because like who wants to like put a start point there, like no one, so that just screws up the entire slicing. Like, please do that, Ableton. That'd be really good. Let's go in and put that to all of them. There's a burp coming. Oh, excuse me. Some people must think this is terribly childish. A grown man pushing 40 burping into YouTube. What must your mums think? Right, what was I doing? Let's just put in all the slices. Let's go Uber breakcore. That means that we'll have to change some things here. We'll have to set the choices up to... Some of the notes are cutting off a little bit. That kind of works. Yeah, so... there you go, and thus concludes the final episode in Arpeggio, breakcore and Ableton. I'm going to go and put this on Patreon now, and if you're into that kind of thing, you can go there and pledge something like £5 or dollars for every video that I do, and I'll give you a download link for every video that I do. I'm going to try and do 2 a month, and I've nothing else to say. See you next time. Bye. Love you.